Hey everybody, it's the Poor Sports Seattle podcast, and I am back. Ooh, not on Twitter, by the way. I did not know you needed a premium account to go live on Twitter. Well, we're not going to figure that out. In the meantime, I'm going to go actually over there and tweet it real quick, just in case, because let's get the folks that are over there. It's been a while since I've done a podcast. I was gonna do one. I mean, I've given you so many excuses this summer. Is this podcast dead? Who knows? Hold on one second. I'm gonna share this on Twitter. All right. So I've given you every excuse, and here we are. We are live on a Friday, sitting next to a poster that says live every Monday. No excuses. I fucked up some paperwork for my daughter's after school childcare, and then also this last Saturday I went to my wife's cousin's wedding, and my youngest daughter had a stomach bug, and so my stomach has been messed up since last Saturday. The wedding, we had a bunch of seafood. I don't know if that contributed to it. Nobody else seems to feel bad but me. But I will tell you that if you get a stomach bug on like a Wednesday, and then on Sunday or on Saturday you eat like 5 or 6 different kinds of seafood, you drink a bunch of whiskey, drink a bunch of beer, it's possible that your stomach will not feel great for the rest of the time. So I'm like 7 days sober on accident, not for any good reason, just because my stomach was upset. I did a show last week in Natchez, Washington. I've actually had, by the way, my show with Jeffrey Baldinger that was his special taping is postponed indefinitely. We'll see if that gets rescheduled. I did a show in Natchez, and I made a mistake last week. Obviously, we're at a point in this country that like tensions are pretty high, maybe the highest they've been in this current like presidential administration. And I made a mistake. I brought up like 2 political events on accident, and me and my opener were already having one of the worst shows of my career, and just it absolutely tanked it. And I gotta say, my entire comedy career, there's been somebody that's been a large portion of comedy audiences that's been very sensitive. Can we just decide that some of us don't like comedy? I think that's actually, by the way, like Jimmy Kimmel. Whatever you feel about Jimmy Kimmel as a TV show host, this thing where it's like comedy's now being legislated. What are we, back in the fucking 1940s? We have to have a Lenny Bruce. We have to have another Lenny Bruce. Anyway, so I'm doing this podcast live from a bunker. I think the thing we're all the most excited about is the Mariners. I'm going to talk about the Mariners. I'm going to talk about the Seahawks, even though the Seahawks game has been over for a while, and you've probably seen every Seahawks versus New Orleans preview that you've wanted to see. But I did want to talk about the DK Metcalf matchup and how that bore out. And then we're going to talk about the Apple Cup and maybe eulogize the Apple Cup a little bit, not to spoil what we're talking about. But we'll start with the Mariners. The Mariners have been on a very hot streak. They broke their double-digit game win streak the other day against the Kansas City Royals. But as they sit right now, the Mariners have a 98.1% chance of making the playoffs, according to Fangraphs. 40% of that is the wild card, and then they have a 57.8% chance of winning the AL West. Obviously, the fact that they're about to play 3 games against the Astros will make a huge difference in how that ends up. Whether or not they are at the end of that series, I think that number is going to shift considerably. No matter who wins 2 out of the 3 games or sweeps, I think that it's going to be those odds are going to shift quite a bit. But the Mariners are in the driver's seat to make the playoffs, which is not a position that I think many Mariners fans, myself included, I've been a Mariners fan since, I remember very distinctly in 1995 when they made the playoffs the first time. I watched them before then. There was a stretch from 1995 till, I would say, 2003. Obviously, 2001 was the year they made the playoffs. But I think up until 2003, Mariners fans felt entitled to a playoff appearance and disappointed by anything short of a playoff appearance. And then after that, I would say the malaise of being a Mariners fan sort of set in, and we've all we've ended up where we've ended up. But to be in late September and have a 98.1% chance to make the playoffs, 40% chance of that is the wild card, almost 58% is to win the AL West, and then 13.5% chance to win the World Series is, I believe, the highest on record in the history of Fangraphs playoff odds for the Mariners to win the World Series. I think it's the second highest behind the Dodgers to win the World Series. This is a good Mariners team. I do wonder, I mean, I guess one other development of this podcast that I'm talking to someone who might, this sounds like I'm trying to date him. I'm not trying to hide this person's gender. Might have a co-host coming on board, at least part-time. This is the kind of thing that I would like to talk to him about, which is, what is like Josh Naylor actually worth? I've seen some conversations. The Jerry DiPoto went on the MLB Trade Rumors podcast and talked about how the Mariners are interested in it, and then there's been discussions in local radio. I think Spot Track has his market value at like 3 years, $44 million. That's like about, like, that would make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, which is about probably the right range. Is like paying market value for Josh Naylor makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm like somewhat ambivalent to the idea that the Mariners should or should not extend Josh Naylor. The only reason I even think I would be interested in them being aggressive is because there's not a lot of hitters that are very interested in playing in Seattle, as we've seen. Also, by the way, I mean, Cal Raleigh, hopefully in this Astros series, breaks Ken Griffey Jr.'s single-season Mariners home run record. He's got an outside shot at breaking the non-Barry Bonds home run record. The non-Barry Bonds, non-Mark McGwire, non-Sammy Sosa. Aaron Judge hit 62 a couple years ago, right? Aaron Judge, 62 home run. Yeah, that's right. 62 home runs, theoretically clean. He has an outside shot at that. That would be that's a tough order to hit 6 more home runs this year, but we've certainly seen him get hot in stretches where I would imagine we've seen 12-game stretches or whatever it is that, how many games do they have left? I imagine we've seen stretches that are where he's hit 6 home runs in that short of an amount of time. That's all to say, though, very exciting time to be a Mariners fan. Very exciting time to watch Cal Raleigh. Julio's obviously put together a great second half. Jorge Polanco has put together a great second half. I think you probably got to start talking about, what does a Jorge Polanco extension look like? What does a Gino Suarez extension look like? Even though Gino hasn't been as productive as Josh Naylor, what does a Gino Suarez extension look like? Like, you don't have that many shots at hitters, and these are the only guys that I think you might have a reasonable shot at getting like a market value or sub-market value deal with. And I'd kind of like, with those, how old is Gino? Is Gino 32? The part of the deal with Josh Naylor is he is younger, but he's also younger. Ooh, no, Gino's 34. Boy, I mean, Gino's been like perennially disrespected in his career. A guy that's been like a very good power hitter that is just simply not translated to success financially. Man, I don't know if I'm super. I think I talked myself out of it without even really digging into numbers. But yeah, very, very exciting time. And then I think, so the Mariners are going to play this Astros series, and it's going to be enormous, and that's goes without saying, and we don't need to dig too deep into it. You start to think about, what does the postseason roster look like? You start to think about, what does the structure of like the starting rotation and the bullpen look like? And I've heard some conversations about what do you do with Luis Castillo? Is he in the bullpen or is he in the rotation? Who is the guy that falls out of the rotation? If you run a 4-man rotation in the postseason, which is the most common practice, who is the guy? And some people have pointed to the idea that Bryce Miller should take his spot. And I will go on record as saying this, and this is not going to be popular, and I'm not trying to say it to be popular or not popular. Luis Castillo is I think past his prime. I think the Mariners should explore trading Luis Castillo in the offseason regardless of how this season ends up because he's making a lot of money and he's aging. And if you can get something for him, I think like freeing up that money. If freeing up that money means you can go sign Josh Naylor and Gino Suarez or maybe a free agent or bring back Jorge Polanco. Like I would rather have a combination of those three guys than Luis Castillo on the roster, and his no trade clause ends at the end of this year. All that being said, 2025, I don't give a shit what his 2026 salary is. He's been a better pitcher than Bryce Miller by a lot. And Bryce Miller has been a decent. I was looking at this, and I think this is like this to me decided everything for me for this year. I think Bryce Miller will probably be a better pitcher than Luis Castillo for the rest of his career after this year. Bryce Miller's been injured this year. First time through the order, Luis Castillo is like a 3-ish ERA. And I know ERA isn't the perfect stat. I'm trying to use like a stat that we can all understand. He's a 3-ish ERA first time through the order. Like a 3-ish ERA second time through the order. 4-ish. He gets a little worse in his third time through the order. Bryce Miller, limited sample size, is like a 3 the first time, 6 the second time, and a 9 the third time. I don't think he's healthy. But he's a guy that still throws in the mid-90s, a guy that can string together some strikeouts, and frankly, like, has not earned that spot. So, to me, it's not a hard question. It's Luis Castillo in the rotation, Bryce Miller coming out of the bullpen. George Kirby, they may open the postseason with Brian Wu. I still think Logan Gilbert is a better pitcher than Brian Wu. I don't actually care about any of the, like, disrespecting Logan Gilbert stuff. I think if the Mariners reach a point where they can start to kind of situate themselves in a way that allows them to maximize their postseason chances, meaning they have guaranteed themselves a playoff spot early enough. If you can do that, Logan Gilbert game 1, no question for me. Better pitcher than Brian Wu, more dominant stuff. I like Brian Wu quite a bit. I've doubted him earlier in the year. I still don't think he's an ace, but the moment I said that, from the moment I even put out a short of it, I believe, saying that he was not an ace and would never be an ace. He pitched as close to an ace as I think he'll ever pitch for the rest of his career. By the way, this game starts in a couple hours, so a lot of this stuff might be moot by the time you listen to this, but yeah, I think I don't think it's very. I just don't think it's super difficult. I don't think it's a super difficult choice. I think it's a very easy choice. The other guy that I'm wondering about is I think we talked about this earlier towards the trade deadline. Herangelo St. J has been pitching in Double-A for now. He's started 7 games in Triple-A or in Double-A. And that's a total of, in 2025, he has pitched a total of 26 games, 23 starts, 108.1 innings. I can't remember, there's some number of like, a pitcher shouldn't increase his innings by this much over a season or whatever. I don't know how much there is left in the tank for St. J, but what I will say is, if you have a chance to win the World Series, I would love to see what St. J has. I don't know if they might have even already shut him down. Let's see if have plans to shut him down. I'm gonna check Twitter. Oh boy, the last name always gives. Okay, so September 10th. Yeah, so there's people saying that they should call him up as of September 10th. This is just an account called El Salsa Grande for some reason. I I would like it if the Mariners called up Angelo St. because I would like to see what he can do. I'd like to see what a switch pitcher can do. I would like to see the best roster they can put together. And if that includes Angelo St., bring him up. This bullpen isn't so good that they can't use another good arm. And St. J's place on the prospect list and his pedigree as a prospect is not so good that it's like if you curb his development a little bit, if you stunt his development a little bit, that it's like franchise-altering bad news. It wouldn't be good. You'd like to get the most you can out of him. You'd like the guy to have the best career he can. But also, like, as a franchise, the priority is win a World Series. You're about to make the playoffs. And if he's a guy that can help you get there, and a guy that can throw lefty in the mid-90s and can, touch or approach 100 from the right side, that's one of the most interesting pitching prospects in baseball, and maybe has something left in the tank and has had some success. These are his stats, by the way, at Double-A. He's 7 games. He's averaging almost 10 strikeouts per 9, 4.28 walks per 9. Has not been giving up home runs, but going from Everett, which is like home run haven, to Arkansas, a little bit different. So you'd expect the home run numbers to go down. I would say his 2.67 ERA is probably not indicative of him being just like this world-beating pitcher. Probably something. His home run to fly ball percentage in Everett was 20.9. That is higher than you would expect in Major League Baseball. In Double-A, it's 3.8%. That is lower than you would expect in Major League Baseball. If that bumps up to around 10 or 11%, which is what you would expect in Major League Baseball, you're talking about a guy with like a 3.5 ERA, but a guy that might be able to come in and get key outs against left-handed batters. And yeah, at least check it. Let's see the next couple weeks. That's what I'd like to see. All right. Let's talk about the Seahawks briefly because I didn't get to talk about the game. I was like in rough. I was hungover during the game. I didn't fall asleep during the game. I did wake up like embarrassingly. I woke up at like 9:50. I didn't even drink that much at the wedding, by the way, but I had a little bit more when I got home, and just really, the stomach thing really got me, and it got me all week. By the way, I'm still not doing great, but better than I was. This is why I need a Patreon, by the way, so I can tell you about my dietary problems in greater detail and know that it's not going to disgust potential new viewers. So first off, rematch with DK Metcalf, blown out of proportion, in my opinion. DK wanted out. He's wanted out for 2 years. The Seahawks finally acquiesced. I thought he played great as a Seahawk. I loved him as a Seahawk. He got an extension here, a big extension here. And then when they didn't want to pay him what he wanted to be paid and he wanted to leave, and maybe that's not the exact perfect account of events, they got rid of him. Win, 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 right? Everybody should be happy. And he got a huge extension in Pittsburgh. He got an extension that I would not have wanted the Seahawks to sign him to. So win, win, win. I will be curious how he dropped two. You got to see, he dropped 2 balls, and we got to see kind of everything that made DK Metcalf frustrating in Seattle, except for, I don't think he ever got penalized. He did come kind of close. He was getting a little chippy with Josh Jobe. I think it was with Jobe. They were getting a little chippy. I would not have been surprised. There was one play where they showed it, and I would not have been surprised if Metcalf had been penalized on that play. And I also, you got to see the drops, and even the catch he made, the touchdown catch he made, you kind of got to see what makes him not a great red zone threat. There's this misconception that DK Metcalf is some amazing red zone threat because he scores a lot of touchdowns, and he's big, strong, jumps high. He's not a hands catcher. We've seen that in Seattle. Not a hands catcher. Not a guy that goes up in high points balls. Not a guy that's posting a guy up in the end zone. Not a guy that's like a fluid red zone option. A guy who is big and bulky and might be able to move. His best, DK Metcalf is at his best when he's trying to run past defenders or run through them with the ball in his hand. And that is very valuable. DK Metcalf was very good in Seattle. I'm not trying to discount that, but we did get to see like every way that he's an incomplete receiver. And then we also got to see Cooper Kupp, who I made my prediction that earlier in the offseason, I thought Cooper Kupp is he's going to catch more balls than DK Metcalf. I actually haven't checked on that, but I bet I'm pretty close to right because I happen to have DK Metcalf on a couple fantasy teams. And so I think he's probably got less receptions than Kupp, or they're really close. But you also got to see like Cooper Kupp doing things that DK Metcalf just doesn't do. DK Metcalf can do a lot of things that Cooper Kupp can't do. DK Metcalf can do a lot of things that very few receivers in the history of the NFL can do. But he can't do some of the stuff that Cooper Kupp can do, and some of that stuff's more important to Gary Kubiak's offense. By the way, we've seen JSN is just flourishing. He's thriving without having to share as many targets with DK Metcalf, but also like an offense that truly fits his skill set. He's become the Seahawks like very obvious number one receiver. A guy that they should probably try to be talking extension to before it's too late, and he costs Jamar Chase money at some point. And by the way, I don't even think I don't think that's like that crazy to imagine JSN could set the market sometime soon. I don't know that he's that high of a quality receiver. Like I don't know that that's what I would like to see the Seahawks do. And in fact, I would say like again, much like Josh Naylor, I would be uncomfortable with JSN being the highest paid receiver in the NFL on the Seahawks roster and being on the Seahawks roster. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. He's been playing very well. I think it looks like Zach Charbonnet, I think is, I was trying to pull up the injuries earlier. I think that Zach Charbonnet is probably, Zach Charbonnet is questionable. Who else? I think Nicky Manwari is doubtful. Yeah, Nicky Manwari's doubtful. Devin Witherspoon's doubtful. And Charbonnet's doubtful. And Julian Love's doubtful. So that'll help my prediction that Kenneth Walker will have more rushing yards than Zach Charbonnet. Not the way I wanted to win it, but I think it's and by the way, Walker he had great production against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then the Saints, I mean, I have to imagine, I actually haven't seen what the odds are in this game, but it's got to be, I imagine the Seahawks are heavy favorites. Game in Seattle. The Saints are hapless. They're still kind of crawling out of the cap. Yeah, the Seahawks are 7.5 point favorites. In the NFL, that's really big. We as fans, there's like some inclination from fans to not like, well, I can't look past this game. You can't look past this game. I don't have anything to do with the game planning or anything like that. I'm not going to look past this game, but I'm going to watch it. I think it should be an easy victory. The idea that my concentration, that my commitment to not looking past this game has anything to do with the Seahawks is always silly to me, but yeah, I think they should win this game. This should be an easy victory. The Saints are a bad team. The Seahawks are a goodish team. The defenses look very good, by the way, which is, I think, like last year, the disappointing thing was how long it took the defense to come together. Now they have a year under their belt. They've got Ernest Jones. They've got Byron Murphy with the year under his belt. Byron Murphy has seemed to make significant improvements. Even with losing Nicky Manwari, they've been like very good. Josh Jobe taking over for Devin Witherspoon was great last week, largely against DK Metcalf. It kind of reminds you this season and this Seahawks team, and I'm sure I said this last year, but it reminds you a little bit of the earliest parts of the Pete Carroll era where Pete was really innovating. Pete Carroll, and people who've been a fan of the Seahawks as long as I have, I think obviously know this, but Pete Carroll like really changed the position, changed the cornerback, the defensive back position. Changed what cornerbacks looked like, how long they were, how fast they were, how physical they played. In a way that, like, you used to hear about cornerbacks being these guys that made business decisions and guys that were bad tacklers, and that was just not acceptable in a Pete Carroll defense. And it seemed like you could just, Pete could take a fifth-round talent. I mean, and I believe Richard Sherman was a fifth-round pick, but I'm not referencing him in particular because he won a starting job relatively early in his. I mean, he got like significant playing time pretty early in his rookie year, but I'm talking about like you would just be like, oh, this is Jeremy Lane. Jeremy Lane's gonna step in and or obviously Brandon Browner famously was like basically out of football. Now he's out of society. Is he? Is he still in prison? He was the last when I did a show with. Well, we don't need to get into any of that. We want the best for Brandon Browner, but anyways, this feels a little bit like that. Like to be able to take Josh Jobe off the off of the scrap heap and turn him into a guy who can hold his own very well against DK Metcalf is very impressive. And should not go understated. That's very impressive. And that kind of feels like a Pete Carroll thing where you could take these like lesser talents and turn them into productive players on a defense. Like that's what you need to get out of a defensive coach. That's what Pete Carroll was really great at, I thought. And why I thought sometimes they kind of over invested in the defense financially is he was very good at finding guys who could be contributors without having any upfront investment in them. Not super high draft capital, not super large contracts. And hopefully Mike McDonald's building the same kind of thing. It kind of feels that way right now. Okay. So let's talk about the Apple Cup. The Apple Cup it's Saturday. Weird that it's not right after Thanksgiving. Still hard to adjust to the fact that the Huskies are a Big Ten team and the Cougars are the one of two remaining Pac-12 teams. And next year the game opens the season for the Huskies. It's the season opener for the Huskies. I don't know if that's true for the Cougars or not also, but it's just weird. It's like there's been so many years of this and it just doesn't feel normal yet. And then 3 years from now, it's the present agreement ends and there's a lot of worry and speculation about what that's going to look like, if the game is going to continue. And I do kind of think like the intrigue of the Apple Cup, it's at an all-time low, isn't it? The last year, at least and by the way, I will say, like, I watched John Mateer, who's like crushing at Oklahoma, but I watched him last year, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy's like an Eric Crouch, kind of like a run-only quarterback, not impressive to me. And for him to become like the quarterback du jour in college football was very surprising to me. But then to lose Mateer a year after losing Cam Ward, to lose the coaching staff very late in the process, like very difficult circumstances. Not dissimilar from what the Huskies went through last year. Just that you're a team in the conference of two with very little leverage and not a ton of money, and it's just an unfortunate situation. And I guess I've reached the point personally where I almost this is going to be very condescending towards Washington State Cougars fans, and I know many Washington State Cougars fans. I love many Washington State Cougars fans. My sister graduated from Washington State University. My mom's whole side of the family is from Spokane, so they're all Cougars fans. I almost don't view it as a rivalry at this point. Even though, by the way, I mean, like, literally last year, that's right? The Cougars beat the Huskies last year in the Apple Cup. And I've managed to I've already written it off. And it doesn't help, by the way, that the Cougars lost 59-10 to North Texas. Just absolutely brutal. But I do think, like, very similar to what happened with, and give me a little latitude on this so I can explain myself, by the way. But when the Huskies played, they used to play Gonzaga in basketball every year, and then it became disadvantageous because it wasn't a prestige win for the Huskies at the time, and it was also, like, not that easy of a win. Like, the prestige did not match the potential to lose, and I'm not saying it propelled Gonzaga completely. Gonzaga's won a lot of really big games, but it was like kind of a stepping stone thing for them, and now it's probably at a point where Gonzaga wouldn't want that matchup. And I think, like, there's only the way the programs are headed right now, it's a guaranteed non-conference game against probably an unranked opponent, against a non-Power 4 conference opponent who is, like, because of the rivalry, has managed to sneak out some very improbable victories. And if I'm the Huskies athletic director and I'm the football coach and I'm thinking about what benefits this team, it's certainly not, walking in a minefield of potentially losing to an angry Washington State Cougars team. Although, we're going to reach an era, I think, not long from now, where the players that are playing at Washington State do not carry the same torch of the rivalry. Some of that is because of the NIL and the transfer portal and the fact that guys aren't sticking around for very long, and good players that play at Washington State are probably always going to move on to other programs. Some of that is probably because there's just so much disparity, and I think we're headed for a period where Washington is probably going to dominate the series. No guarantees. Like I said, Washington State they may get off on playing spoiler, and good for them. That's what I have to say. I'm a Huskies fan, but if you're a Huskies fan and you can't see that the Huskies played a large role in the Pac-12 dissolving, which maybe it had to, by the way. Like, I'm a Huskies fan. If the Seahawks or the Huskies can both have played a large role in the Pac-12 dissolving and me think it's the right decision. I could be sad about the Pac-12 going away and think it was the right decision for the team that I like. Okay? But a team that's going to lose to North Texas, and especially, by the way, the other thing about this is not only is it a non-conference game, and not only is it a team that may want to play spoiler against the Huskies, a team that may get off on that, as they should, as they deserve to. Also, as the agreement presently is, every other year you have to go to Pullman to play the game. That was the most shocking thing to me, by the way, is the fact that Washington State traveled to play North Texas. That's the status. That's a great way, if you're not a big college football fan, a great way to understand the status of a team is who they are willing to travel to go play. Because Washington State, if they were part of the Pac-12 of old, North Texas is coming to Pullman. Even though they are and there's a great podcast, the On Montlake. No, it's Say Who Say Pod, but it's Christian Capel and Danny Kelly, and it's part of the On Montlake blog. Great podcast and a great they had a great discussion about this today. But yeah, it's like, it's just the incentive for Washington, if you're not just a straight up traditionalist. And the fact that they left Pac-12, I think, means that the traditionalists are gone. The incentive for Washington is basically nothing to go back and to keep this rivalry alive. It limits their opportunities to go play other programs because every year one of your non-conference games is devoted to this historical rivalry that nobody cares about, and certainly, like, college football playoff voters don't care about. Anyway, that all that being said, by the way, like, I think that Washington should. It's the same as, like, what's the betting line on this? Apple Cup betting line. It is. Give me a line. I don't want all this crap. Yeah, so Washington is favored by 19.5 points. Is that right? According to, let's double check the. It doesn't help, by the way. They're favored by 19.5 points. I'll say I hate that I can't gamble on Washington college teams. These are adults. Let me gamble on them in Washington State. Okay, I want to end on this. I saw this, and I'm sorry if this doesn't play audio. I think it's going to play audio. I'm sorry if it doesn't play audio because I saw this this tweet from the Mariners yesterday, and I was like, what are they talking about? And it was it said must see challenge, and maybe even said like Hall of Fame level challenge, or what was the superlative? Let's see if we can get there real quick. It was come on now. Oh, have you ever seen a challenge like this one? I think I might have seen a different. So let's take a look at it.
On the ground over to second base, Massey.
So Dominique Canzone, if you're listening, grounds out to the second baseman. Routine play.
Challenging the position of the infielder on the grass.
Well, your feet have to be on the dirt.
Wrestling before all of a sudden, second baseman backed up.
How in the world did they see this?
Okay. This sucks. Can I just say that this sucks? This is not the game. I know I sound like just an irredeemable boomer, but this sucks. This is not the game. I joked on Twitter. I said this is why I fell in love with the game. I'm trying really hard right now to convince my father-in-law that we need robot umps, and we're sending we're sending videos back and forth to each other all the time about, can you believe, look at all these bad calls. That's what I'm sending to him. And then replay was hard enough for these guys, for these old men that love baseball. It was hard enough to just like replay. And they don't like the shift. I'm sure these guys don't like the shift. But then we're celebrating what I think is the most, first off, the shift should not even be banned. That rule should not exist. I'm against it. But then to celebrate like this just obscure challenge, baseball is in a rough place. This is like not the kind of thing. This is not actually a thing that is going to bring fans in. Maybe the shift. I know there was a study done whether the shift has increased balls in play and batting average on balls in play, and I'm sure that's really easy to measure, and I'm sure that it probably has, like at least game theory it would. But man, this is like not this is what do they say? This is not what are the kids saying these days? This isn't the flex you think it is. This is what the game has come down to, is there's being bases awarded because a second baseman had his heels on the grass of the infield. Are you fucking kidding me? I have nothing else to say about that. Just baseball's in an embarrassing state. Pitch clock, huge. This is where I stand on the rules. Pitch clock, huge win. Innings limit on pitchers, I'm like, the only thing I will say about that is that it brings baseball closer to what it used to look like. The ghost runner. The shift ban kind of does that, but it does it in a way that's just so rigid. It sucks. And part of the deal is now you have these guys that are like dead pull hitters. I've said this a million times throughout the process of these rules being created, but you have these guys that are like dead pull hitters who are on 10-year, $250 million contracts that teams can't get out of. And now another team can just move their worst offensive player over, and now that guy is rendered useless as an offensive player because this little tiny shortstop moves over to right field. I get that, but let that guy learn to hit the ball the other way, goddammit. All right, I gotta go. My kids are about to be home. Thank you all for listening, the few of you that did. And I love you. And, whatever. Come see me do comedy soon. Bye.